Resuming debate, the honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Aujourd'hui.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today is the third time that I'm speaking in the House on this bill. The first time around, I didn't have an opportunity to make a speech, but the second time, there was a problem with technology. So fortunately, I'm here today with this to speak to Bill C-3.
I really think that on our side of the House, we certainly have made a good effort to indicate about the challenges that women, that females face when they are in not only in positions of power and in politics, but just the judgment you face on a daily basis in terms of what you wear, your makeup, how you express yourself. I mean, this is something that my colleagues in the House are not unfamiliar with. They are very aware of, and my colleagues on this side of the House have done a very good job, I think, of expressing that and of the challenges they have faced throughout their political careers as they have attempted to express who they are and to represent their constituents in their most authentic way possible. And I know sometimes I certainly get comments on Facebook, on Twitter. People say, oh, your eyelashes are too big or your makeup is too dark, Madam Speaker. But, you know, it doesn't bother me because inside, I know who I am, and I know that my family loves me, and I know my friends love me. And one of those special friends, Madam Speaker, is a woman by the name of Rona Ambrose. You know, I first met Rona Ambrose at the convention, the Conservative Convention in, I believe it was 2005 in Montreal. And it was really something to meet her. I thought, oh my goodness, I'm meeting Rona Ambrose. But fortunately, I have a friend who is a family relative of hers. And so I would see her from time to time in Ottawa during my time at Global Affairs. I would run into her on a street corner downtown. It was always lovely to see her. But I will say throughout my nomination, she was incredibly supportive, and as well during the election campaign. And I have one special memory, Madam Speaker, with Rona, where my campaign office was set up and all the media were there because she was visiting the campaign office. And I recall right before we walked into the office together, she took a moment and she said, stop. She said, I have to think about what I'm going to say. I need to collect my thoughts as to what I'm going to say. And for me, that was such an incredible lesson to really be clear and concise in the words that you are communicating in the House of Commons, but also as a representative of the people, as an official representative. And I'll never forget that time she came, and that moment really sticks with me. It was in the back of a strip mall, and she just said stop, and it was just such a very pivotal moment in my political career. My other dear memory of Rona is when I won the by-election, when she walked me into the House of Commons. That is a moment that I will never forget. And I remember being in the antechamber waiting, and my husband was there and my son was there, and there were other federal cabinet ministers ready to walk us in. And she turned to me and she said, put on the biggest smile that you possibly can, because this is a moment for you that will go down in your history. This is the single moment that will be seen over and over again. And she was absolutely correct, Madam Speaker. When I look at all of my videos in the 3.5 years of being elected to this House, it's that video. So she was definitely right in that. But you know what is so special about her? And I will say there are many special things, and I like to think her and I are similar. We both speak more than 2 languages. We both have master's degrees. And as well, I'd like to think we both display a class and decorum that this House deserves. But what I think is most special about her, Madam Speaker, is that she recognized something in me, and she encouraged me in seeing that something special in me. And, Madam Speaker, this is something that she has now dedicated her life to, is mentoring and encouraging and promoting women all around the world. So it's no surprise to me that she introduced this significant piece of legislation. I was very fortunate in Calgary last year to attend an event with SOS Villages where she was the guest speaker, and the incredible stories that she had of her time in the House. She told about one time when, as Minister for the Environment, she was meeting her U.S. counterpart, and she was in a room waiting for her U.S. counterpart to arrive, and a secret security agent came in and said, "Listen here, little lady, you got to clear this room. There's important people who are about to meet here, 2 ministers." And she said, I'm one of the ministers. And it's astounding that in this day and age that a conversation like that would happen. But it did. But I think what is so special about her and what is so special about this legislation is that it allows people to tell their stories. Because really, isn't that really what justice and truth is about, is the opportunity to tell your story, to share what has happened. And as well, I want to say a special shout out to all of the participants of the Results Canada conference this weekend. Yesterday morning, I woke up at 9 o'clock and I looked at my calendar and I turned to my husband and I said, "Oh my goodness, I'm scheduled to be a keynote speaker for Results Canada in half an hour." And I wondered, why do I do this? Why do I put myself through this at 9:30 on a Sunday morning? And it became very apparent to me, Madam Speaker, that it's because it's just, I do it for myself because it's so inspiring to share and motivate these young people. And again, that's really what Rona Ambrose is about. She allows people to tell her stories. Now, Madam Speaker, I was very fortunate last March, right before the pandemic hit and before the shutdown, to attend an incredible event that happens every year in Calgary, where people also have an opportunity to tell their stories, and where this past year in particular, it was about women telling their stories. It's called the Why Whisper Gala, and it's put on by the local YWCA. And I want to say a special shout out to the CEO there, Sue Tomney, who does an incredible job. And I also want to say to Minister Hussein, coming out of my previous portfolio of Shadow Minister for Families, Children, and Social Development, that I really hope he sticks to his commitment to the YWCA. Oh, pardon me, Minister Hussein. I believe I referred to him. Yes, I did. Okay. So I want to give a shout out to her, and as well Nazarene, who has always been incredibly instrumental in my relationship with that organization, and their incredible board of directors as well, including wonderful women such as Shannon Young. But last year, Madam Speaker, at the Why Whisper Gala, it had the incredible guests of Jodi Kantor and Megan Toohey, 2 women who won Pulitzer Prizes for breaking the sexual harassment story that helped ignite the movement. And Madam Speaker, I really would say if ever you have an opportunity to read their book, She Said, it is just filled with incredible stories, which I believe are relevant to this piece of legislation here today. But what they went through to get the stories from women, I think of the most telling story for me, the first house where they knocked on the door of someone they were hoping to get their insight from and get their perspective. Was a woman, and she said to them, "I have waited 25 years for you to knock on my door. 25 years to tell her story, Madam Speaker. And so, I think that's another reason why this piece of legislation is just so incredible and just speaks to, again, Rana's foresight to allow people to have the opportunity to tell their stories. But Madam Speaker, I also want to say that it's not always bad, horrible, terrible stories that we might hear about in courtrooms, or that we might hear about that they might hear at the YWCA, horrific situations that women are escaping from, Madam Speaker. But there are also good stories. And I'll tell you, Madam Speaker, the first time I was actually preparing for this speech was at the time where in the United States, I won't get into the American politics too much, they were looking to confirm the appointment of Amy Coney Barrett. And I thought, wow, there's so much light on this potential justice, and yet we don't even focus on the incredible women within our own judicial system. And so I just wanted to take a moment, Madam Speaker, within this speech and highlight the incredible women of our Supreme Court. And they include the Honorable Rosalie Silberman Abella. She is actually the first Jewish woman who was appointed, to the Supreme Court. And previous to being appointed to the Supreme Court, she did significant work on equality, discrimination, and disability. But certainly there's her, and for me to get into their entire resumes, Madam Speaker, would take hours and hours. There is the Honorable and my apologies for mispronouncing these names if I do, Andromache Karakatsanis. She served as Ontario's Secretary of the Cabinet and Clerk of the Executive Council from July 2000 to November 2002. As the province's senior public servant, she provided leadership to the Ontario Public Service and to the deputy ministers. And she was also involved in a lot of issues, Madam Speaker, related to education. And isn't that what this bill is about as well? Education. So incredible to recognize her. I'll now move on to the Honorable Suzanne Cote. She was a partner at Osler, Hoskin, and Harcourt LPP, where she was head of the Montreal office's litigation group. And before that, she was at Stikeman Elliott, where she was head of the litigation group there as well. So another incredible woman on our Supreme Court. And then finally, Madam Speaker, I will close out here with the Honorable Sheila Martin, who has fought prior to being a Supreme Court Justice for equal justice for all. And of course, very dear to me, Madam Speaker, is the fact that Justice Martin worked as a researcher and law professor at the University of Calgary from 1982 to 1986. So another just, really incredible woman that I want to shine the light on here as we talk about this bill, which will have significant implications for our justice system, no doubt about it. But Madam Speaker, I'll go back now to Rana Ambrose, as I said, just another incredible individual. But in addition to her, Madam Speaker, she was the one, as I said, who had the vision, who had the foresight for this legislation as a result of all the work that she has done with women and girls and continues to do with women and girls. I'm sure you saw very recently, she had published what I believe was her first book on girls, International Day of the Girl, something very special. But I just want to remind you, Madam Speaker, that, this was a conservative woman, and conservative women have really led the way here in the House of Commons, since we're talking about stories of survivors and victims who are often women. I just want to run through some of the incredible accomplishments of conservative women here within the House of Commons. So we had Ellen Fairclough, who was the first female cabinet minister, as well as the first acting prime minister. So no small feats there. Now, the next one, of course, is very dear to my heart. Flora MacDonald, who was the first female foreign affairs minister. Me having been at Global Affairs Canada for a significant period of time prior to being in the House of Commons, that one really means a lot to me and touches my heart. And oddly enough, I'm not sure if I've ever shared this with the House, Madam Speaker, but actually my first diplomatic trip to Washington, I was on the same flight as the Honorable Joe Clark, and I thought, isn't that significant that I'm on my first diplomatic flight and I'm on the same flight as Joe Clark? But moving back to the incredible women from the conservative movement. Deb Gray, who can forget Deb Gray? In fact, Madam Speaker, I'd like to think we have our own little Deb Gray, or not little, Deb Gray reincarnate in the member for Lakeland, just another woman who just shows that fire and passion for her constituents and for her party and for Canada being in the House of Commons. But Deb Gray was the first woman to lead the official opposition. So another significant conservative woman there. And of course, Madam Speaker, you know that I would absolutely mention the first Prime Minister of Canada, Kim Campbell. So I want to say, Madam Speaker, the Liberals, I genuinely believe that they often feel that they own compassion, that they own the rights to people's stories. And Madam Speaker, I am telling you here today, they do not. This piece of legislation, as I mentioned, was brought forward by a prominent conservative woman, a prominent former minister, and I'm very glad that the government took this legislation and moved forward with this legislation from Minister Ambrose. But I want to point out, it really was upon Minister Ambrose to come up with this legislation and to say what we are hearing at this special time in history, Madam Speaker, this incredible time in history, which is, I see you and I believe you. And that's what Rona was thinking of when she drafted this legislation, when she came up with this idea for this piece of legislation. I will say that, Madam Speaker, I believe your story. This is what this piece of legislation is about. And really, that's all that this bill is asking us to do is, I believe, to listen to people's stories and believe people's stories, no matter what they are. Because, Madam Speaker, I will tell you, and I made this point a little bit with the Results Canada group that I was presenting to yesterday, and again, I was very happy to have that conversation. Is to be open-minded to conservative women and to the thoughts of conservative women, and to see yourself as I'm asking all the young women out there to consider seeing yourself as a conservative woman. Because I'll tell you something, Madam Speaker, we are not told in our party what to think or what to believe. So when I say I see you, I believe you, we see everyone, we believe everyone. These are the messages that we're given. I'll tell you something else, Madam Speaker. If you are thinking of putting your name forward, any young women out there, for a Conservative nomination, you will not get a phone call from the local party representative saying, I'm sorry, there won't be a nomination race. We're filling the position with another individual that is being appointed, because we believe in fair and democratic processes, first of all, Madam Speaker, but also we believe in women. We believe that women have it within them to run, to compete, and to win. And that's another thing that Rona Ambrose taught me. We have it within ourselves to run, compete, and win. So as I said, Madam Speaker, the Liberals, they like to believe that they own compassion. They do not. They like to believe that they own the rights to people's stories. That is not true. I know this. Rona Ambrose knew this. That is the reason that she brought forth this legislation, as I mentioned previously, and that all this is that this bill is asking that those who have been entrusted with the greatest responsibility in our society be open to all of these stories, listen to all of these stories. That's really what this training is about. I see you and I believe you. I know this, and Ronna Ambrose knew this, Madam Speaker, and for that I am grateful. She put forward for this legislation today. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Thank you, and I thank the member from Calgary-Midnapore for her contributions today. She spent some time outlining achievements of Conservative women, most notably Ms. Ambrose's, of which you will find no objection on this side of the House. There's no doubt her leadership was strong with respect to this bill. I wonder if the member opposite might comment on Conservative men. Ms. Ambrose was quite public in her criticism of Conservative men who form part of the Conservative caucus in the Senate, not expeditiously pursuing the passage of this bill in the last Parliament. And further to that same question, if she could comment on Conservative men who are premiers in other parts of the country, including the province which my colleague represents, the province of Alberta, and about this notion of getting provincial training replicated at the provincial level, including by the government of Premier Kenney. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much to my colleague for the question. First of all, I think that Ms. Ambrose would very much be in support of men contributing to the process. I mean, there were men who were very implicated in both allowing her to be a member of parliament as well as a minister, and in fact, men who elected her as the interim leader. But again, I think actually the parliamentary secretary's point goes right back to my point of this is the wonderful thing about being a conservative is that you are allowed to disagree with your colleagues. You are allowed to hold other views. And this is not permitted in the current governing party. So I think that's just very something important to hold out amongst conservatives. We have open discussions all the time within our caucus. We absolutely challenge each other's ideas and viewpoints, I think in a way that is unprecedented in the Liberal caucus. So I would say very much she appreciates and she is open to the ideas of all elected officials and all parliamentarians. And as I stated, that is the wonderful thing about our party is that it allows for this wonderful scale of views, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires? The Honourable Member for Cowichan-Malahat-Langford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for Calgary-Midnapore for her speech. And I, too, would like to echo part of her speech that acknowledged the leadership of Ronna Ambrose. And I'd like to also take this opportunity to thank Ms. Ambrose for her leadership in bringing this bill forward. And the fact that we're still debating it today, I think, speaks to that. I wanted to ask her, there was some specific debate at the Justice Committee about how we broaden the term social context. And there was debate over the term systemic. So we now have in this bill reference to systemic racism and systemic discrimination. I'd like to hear the members' comments on that, on why it's important that this federal statute now acknowledge systemic racism and systemic discrimination in the justice system, but also maybe her thoughts on what we need to do beyond legislation in order to ensure that everyone, no matter their background, who goes through the justice system feels accepted and feels that their experience is going to be valued and that they will, in fact, get the justice that they deserve. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to my colleague for the question, and again, I just go back to what I believe is the fundamental beauty about this bill is just providing all Canadians, all individuals within the justice system, the opportunity to share their stories, no matter what those stories are. Now, it's the honourable member is correct. I did focus mostly on women and Rana's commitment and contributions to women and girls. But as I said, this is an incredible time in history.